Hi, this is Daniel from the Halo Effect, and you're watching Ritual Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 300 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Daniel Svensson from the Halo Effect. How are you doing today, Daniel? It is so great to have you here, and thank you for being my 300th interview.
Awesome, thank you. No, I'm good. I'm good. It's Sunday, all lazy. That's so it's
Yeah,
all good.
just a lazy Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is so great to have you here. So, kind of what I want to talk about is talk about like your musical history and sort of do a rundown of your discography. But take me back to young Daniel Svensson. So, growing up in Sweden, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing drums?
I don't know. I mean, th this is a pretty funny story. When I was 12 or 13, I was my best friend was Mikael Stanes' younger brother. So we were hanging out uh, at Stanes' place when they rehearsed before they became Dark Tranquillity. Before I even knew about heavy metal music.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And
Little
then
would you know.
my friend Frederick, Michael's younger brother, lended me Michael's Metallica tape, like old tapes. That's probably the first metal music I heard. I think it was like Kill 'Em All or something like that. Um, and then I started to listen to more extreme death metal. I listened a lot to the Florida scene in the early 90s, like D-side, stuff like that. Um, and all other kinds of more like extreme metal bands. So I didn't really start from like the classic hard rock or rock. I started straight into the more extreme scene for some reason.
Yeah, like the
And
extreme
then,
the better.
yeah, and then I formed my first band in like 94, I think. That later became Sacrilege.
Yeah, but I believe one your first band was Diabolic, or if not one of your first bands. Like
No,
nobody ever talks about them.
no, that's not my band. I just did like session vocals on one song. So I was never a member of that band.
Uh,
So I formed Sacrilege in '94, and we released two albums. Um,
yeah.
and then I was recruited by In Flames
Yeah.
'98, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
but tell me
when
about some of those early Sacrilege demos. Like I was doing my research. I had no idea you did vocals on there. I was like, holy shit, you're a sick ass vocalist.
yeah, because our vocalist during both recordings he got sick, so I had to sing because we had no one else. So I've only basically sang twice, and that's on these two recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you ever like do like going and talking about Sacrilege, did you ever was it hard to also like sing and play at drums at the same time?
I never did.
Oh wow.
So we did one tour with Sacrilege, and we had Thomas from At the Gates helping us out doing vocals on that tour. Pretty amazing, since we all listened a lot to the Gothenburg scene. We were a few years younger than the other bands. Sacrilege, we were like 3 or 4 years younger than Dark Tranquillity, At the Gates, and In Flames. So we were all really inspired by those guys. So it was really awesome that Thomas could help us out on our first tour ever.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like that first album, Lost in the Beauty You Slay. I think that's a really underrated album, especially in like the whole Swedish death metal scene.
Yeah, might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
it's it's pretty different from like the other Gothenburg bands. It's a little bit more melancholic, almost a little bit black metal-ish, maybe.
Yeah. I
Because
definitely get like the hints of like black metal too, especially in the vocals. I was like, damn, this could also be classified as black metal too.
probably that's the way I sound when I scream.
Yeah, and you
Or
sounded
try
fucking
to
killer,
sing.
man. Like holy shit.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
But then of course in 98 you joined up with In Flames. So how'd you get to know like Anders and Bjorn and everybody?
Gothenburg is a pretty small city, and we recorded our albums at the same studio, Studio Fredman, at that time, like all the Gothenburg bands did. And then when they needed a new drummer, they talked to Fredrik Nordström, the producer and owner of Studio Fredman, and he told them, try this dude from Sacrilege. He knows how to play the drums, and so they took me in to test out. And I already knew all the In Flames songs because I was a fan of the band. And I mean, I did pretty well, I guess, but I know they're all lazy. And since I managed to play the songs, they said, yeah, you can join the band.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was the only guy trying out, I think.
yeah. And when you joined up with In Flames, so obviously you were listening to like the first three albums, Lunar Strain, Just Erase and Horkle. So did you rhythmically wanted to try bring something new to In Flames that they didn't have previously? Because I know like Bjorn was originally the drummer before he switched to guitar.
No, not really. I mean, In Flames has always been very driven by the melodies. No, I didn't really think about that. I was just in the beginning. I was just stoked. I was a part of the band, you know.
Yeah. But tell me about making your first record with the band Colony. So what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process like, being that this was like your first record with In Flames?
Yeah, back in the days, you had to rehearse a lot, um, and I remember that we like made a decision that we wanted to really try to tour as much as possible, because that's what we thought would gain us some like success. Work hard, and I think we tried to, I don't know, but like make songs that worked well in a live environment, you know. Um, but it's not that far from Oracle. It's not a big leap from the previous record, I guess.
Yeah.
And we never really analyzed or discussed how it should sound here and there. I mean, we wrote songs that we enjoyed and that we liked to play.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And so what was like touring like for Colony? Did you like start like was that like your first time ever like touring like outside of like Sweden?
Yeah, we just had a short tour with Sacrilege for 2 weeks in Europe. So this was like the first time or at least I, started to tour, and we tried to tour as much as possible uh, from that year and on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big help that made In Flames what it is, because we really started to tour the shit out of the albums, you know.
Yeah. And this year does also mark 25 years of Colony. So how do you feel about this album now, 25 years later?
I don't know. I don't really think about it, but I mean, every album is kind of a milestone, of course. But I mean, it's special for me since it's my first album with the band, and the band became big part of my life. When I quit the band, I was within the band more than half of my lifetime. So, of course, it's In Flames has a big impact on me, and that's my first album with the band. So, of course, that's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought some interesting facts about this album. I think I heard like Bjorn say like the little instrumental Paller Anders Visa, which was an old Swedish traditional song, but Paller Anders is a name, but it means like Anders the guy who steals apples, and it's his song. Like Paller is like a synonym of to steal in Swedish. I thought that was kind of like interesting. So what was that little song? Was that really like what the song was about? I thought it was interesting.
I don't know. We wanted to do something uh, with a nice melody, and it's a traditional Swedish song, and it has the same like melody language that In Flames use. I mean, it's it had we never chose it because of the title. I mean, we liked the melody, and it sounded nice with the acoustic guitars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you also did like a remake of a Behind Space 99, which is a remake of sort of like the 94 four tracks that originally sung by Michael Stunne, but then of course you have Anders singing it. So what made you guys decide to like redo like a song that you have done before?
I think we remade it because we played it live a few times, and we noticed that people liked it. Uh, but we wanted to make it more up to date how we sounded at that time with the present members playing, because it was only probably Jesper back then that was playing on the original song that was in the band in '98. You know, we wanted to do the song with the present members and how it should sound today, 1999. You know.
Yeah. And I also love like the opening song, Embody the Invisible, which is pretty much one of my favorite In Flame songs. I know it was also featured in the Tony Hawk Underground video game. So how was that? What was that like, having like one of like In Flame songs in a video game?
It's pretty cool. Since we on tour, we killed a lot of time playing all these games, so it was a big honor to end up on a video game that we enjoyed to play so much. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then of course the next album, Clayman. I love this album. So what was it like, kind of like going from this to this? It's hard to like describe it. I feel like it sort of continues in the same vein as Colony going into Clayman.
It is, and it's. I mean, it's as you said, Colony is 25 years ago. It's so many years that passed. I hardly remember how it was recording those albums. You know. But it's as you say, it's no big difference from the Colony album. I would say the producing is a little bit more clean, polished maybe than on the Colony album, and maybe also some of the songs are even more live friendly than the Colony ones. Like Only for the Weak is on that one, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yep. Like
Yeah.
this whole album's good. Like the title track, Bullet Ride, Pinball Map, like all classic In Flame songs.
Yeah, and those are songs that the band still are playing live. So I mean,
Yeah.
they're really good songs, powerful but still melodic, and works out really good
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because I've actually had interviewed Peter about this, because I was telling, like, I don't know if you're aware of like all the lyrical interpretation videos, especially with Pinball Map. There's like the lyric in there is like who was sent to glorify, but I love how the lyric interpretation makes it sound like Homer Simpson couldn't fly. Like, I don't know if you're like aware of those.
That's a new one. That's good.
Yeah.
Gotta have a listen later on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then next up is Reroute to Remain. Really good album.
Mhm.
I feel like it's like an evolution in the In Flames like sound. So what was the whole inspiration behind Reroute to Remain?
That's probably the album which is maybe a little bit more different from the previous ones. And one big change is that we swapped or we changed producer and studio from Studio Fredman to Dugout Studios and produced by Daniel Bergstrand. And I think at the end of the 90s, at the millennium shift, a lot of people started to talk about the Gothenburg sound, you know, and it felt like they all the Gothenburg bands, we didn't want to be labeled as like sounding the same. So at that time, most of the Gothenburg bands tried to take their own paths, you know, a little bit to be more unique than before. Like Dark Tranquillity made their Projector album, which is also very different from their previous ones. I think we all wanted to stand out a little bit and took a little bit different directions from what we originally sounded like, you know. And this is the album when we started to use more electronics. We tried to move the melodies from the guitars to other instruments, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things happening that we didn't try before, even though the song structures and everything else is still kind of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, one of my favorite songs is Trigger, which of course I love the music video with like your fellow Swedes and Soilwork sort of like in there. And then there was their music video for Rejection Roll, but I think you guys sort of like swapped kind of like roles in there. So what made you guys decide to like do those videos but kind of like back to back almost, and have like the kind of like the different kind of like roles that you all were playing with?
I don't know. I think at that time also a lot of people were starting to uh, talk about the bands on different internet forums, and they made up stories that we didn't like each other and stuff like that. So we spinned off uh, and did a video on that theme. Of course, we were like mocking each other in the video, you know,
Yeah, I thought that
to
was
make
fucking great.
an ironic touch, the whole thing, and taking the edge of people's bullshit talking,
Yeah.
basically.
But in reality, like y'all are like homies, and everybody
Yeah,
in
yeah,
like the Sweden's all everybody, like you said, like Gothenburg's like a small town, like everybody's all like homies, everybody knows each other.
yeah. We're all good friends, and every almost everyone has played in bands together in different constellations. So we're all good friends. It's never a competition, you know.
Oh yeah. And so talking about roots in Maine, so how was like the touring like? And did you like tour it out finally like toured in the US for the first time around this album cycle?
No, I think we went to the US already in '99. But on this album, we got a big support tour for Slayer and Soulfly for like
Oh,
9 weeks.
nice.
So that's the album we toured like the most American tours on one album that year. I think we did two or three.
Yeah. Yeah, because didn't you like do like tours with like Dark Tranquility do you back in the day?
I think the Slayer tour we did like 10 dates by ourselves, and then Dark Tranquility jumped on that tour.
Yeah, because I thought there was
So,
like a funny story because I was watching like Michael and Peter on Rob Flynn's podcast, and he was talking about like Michael about almost getting lost in America because he wanted to see like a Rush show.
yeah, that's a fun story. Uh,
Yeah, that had to be
yeah,
scary.
yeah, he almost missed everything.
Yeah.
But back then we didn't have mobile phones that worked in the US, so he couldn't get hold of us. And Peter has um, told Michael that we will have, because we had a show in Portland with In Flames, and Michael was at the Rush show, and then he flew to Portland straight after the show and should catch our buses and go to the first show that we had together. And Peter said to Michael that our bus call was like at 10 or 11 in the evening. So Michael came like 30 minutes before, but the bus has already left. And Peter forget that Michael was joining. So he came to the venue and everyone was gone. But yeah, he made it to the first show anyways.
Yeah, he was like, guys, I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, next album, Soundtrack to Your Escape. I like this album. Like, nobody ever really talks about this album. I feel like it's a very underrated In Flames album. So, what was sort of like the thought process making this album?
Uh, I think we recorded that album in a big mansion in Denmark. We rented a big house and we built a studio. Spent months doing pre-productions. Worked a lot with the songs, recording demos and stuff like that for the first time to listen, and then did some changes in the song arrangements and songwriting. So that's the first time we really like worked intensely on every detail in every song. And that's the big difference from how we worked with the previous albums, I would say.
Yeah. And of course, this year does also mark the 20-year anniversary of Soundtrack to Your Escape. So how do you feel about this one now, 20 years later?
Oh, it's crazy. That's it's been 20 years since we released it.
Yeah,
Still,
I
there's
was only in
something,
fourth grade when that album came out. So
yeah, that makes me feel old.
yeah.
Thank you. Uh, no, but it's hard because you never really listen to your own music, and now since I don't play in the band anymore, I don't even play the songs. So I haven't heard those songs for years now. So I
Yeah.
hardly remember the songs that are on the album. To be honest, there's so many songs.
Yeah. Then next up is Come Clarity. Another
Hmm.
great album. I thought it was a step up from a Soundtrack to Your Escape. So tell me about this album right here.
Just say about that one. Uh, When was that released? 2006, right?
Yep, 2006.
Yeah. I don't even remember the songs. I know Con Clarity is there. What
Yeah,
other
and there's
songs are there?
also Take This Life,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Reflect the
Okay.
Storm, Dead End.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard like the album was originally was going to be called Fall Through Knife. So what made you guys decide to like change the get to Come Clarity?
That I don't know. Really, I don't remember. Um, but at that time, we were really, really playing a lot toward all the time. Um, and that's also an album that has a lot of songs that still are played live because they're really working out well. Like Take This Life, it's almost on all the set lists, you
Yeah,
know.
it has that really catchy guitar part that it's just like I would call it like hum worthy. You just like hum it, you're just like it's just like earworm music.
That's nice.
Yeah. And one thing I thought was cool was I got the special edition, which has that bonus DVD where you actually like played every song on this album in like a little room. So what made you guys decide to do that?
Sometimes you want to give something special to the fans, um, and give them a treat. So it's a cool thing to do. That's the black and white like rehearsing video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a cool thing to do to show people a little bit behind the scenes stuff, you know. It's a
Yeah.
nice treat.
Yep. And then the next album, A Sense of Purpose. I thought this was a really good album. So tell me about this one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. At that time, we had our own studio, IF Studios. We bought a big studio in Gothenburg. On this album, we also spent months um, recording demos, changing songs, stuff like that. Since we had our own studio, we put a lot of time into that. And also the first time we used producer Roberto Laghi, that was with us for a few albums after that. Also made a big impact on the In Flames sound, I would say. I think that's one of the albums that sounds the best, like producing wise, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I especially love like the album artwork is just great, especially like in the digipack. It just looks really just amazing. Like, who did this artwork? I think this is one of the best
I,
like album artworks I've seen ever.
yeah, it's pretty. I don't remember uh, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's super nice.
yeah. But then, of
And
course,
then
you
we also
yeah, you were
yeah we
saying
started to try to work more on the visual side, not only uh, live but also in the videos and the packaging of the albums, and trying to connect everything more.
that. Then of course you toured for a little bit. Then of course in 2010, like Jesper left the band. So for you personally, what was like your thoughts and reaction? Like Jesper saying, like, guys, I just can't do this anymore.
It was tough. I mean, it was forming the band before I joined. Obviously, he has had a big part of the In Flames history and how it should sound. Uh, but we've been playing in the band for so long, everyone, and we knew how In Flames should sound. So I think, like, songwriting wise, it wasn't that different after he left, because Björn and Jesper was working really tight together when it comes to the songwriting, and sometimes you couldn't really tell who of the guys wrote which riff, you know.
Yeah. And then coming into the next album, Sounds of a Playground Fading, pretty
Mm.
good album. So I know it was recorded with the as a four piece. So how did that sort of like affect sort of like the chemistry within In Flames being like down a guy?
I don't know. I mean, recording wise, you never played together, so for me, it didn't really affect my play or the feel of the album. Really, as I said before, Björn and Jesper is like thinking alike when it comes to songwriting, I would say. But I was music wise, I think that album is a little bit more have a more melancholic and dark atmosphere than some of the previous ones. In a good way, I would say. It's still melodic, but it's not as happy as some of the older melodies.
Yeah.
There's a more dark feel to it, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
There's some really good songs on that one.
Yeah, even with like the album artwork, it definitely does have sort of that darker kind of like bleak kind of vibe with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just black and white and grayish.
Yeah.
But it's a nice album.
Yeah. And then of course you got Nicholas in the band. So how did he join? Because I know he was in Flames for a brief period in the 90s.
Yeah, he was in the band before me for a short time. And then he was helping out sometimes when Jesper couldn't play live before Jesper left the band. So we all knew him. And he's been in the Gothenburg scene since the beginning. So we all know him since we were kids as well. And we know he fit the band and he was very committed. So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think he was a good addition to In Flames.
Yeah, I mean, we already played so many shows together before he officially joined. So
yeah.
And he's a really solid guitar player.
Indeed. And then of course your last album with In Flames, which hard to believe this year does mark the 10-year anniversary of Siren Charms. I thought that was a really interesting album. Another evolution in the In Flames sound. So tell me about making that.
That is the album that is recorded in Germany, I think. We went to I forgot the name of the studio.
Hansa Ton Studio.
Yeah, Hansa. Really cool studio. Lots of big artists been there. Depeche Mode, David Bowie, and stuff like that. Made us very inspired to be in that kind of environment. But we still brought Roberto Laghi to produce drums. So he joined Germany. So it was an amazing experience for me, recording in another country, which I've never been doing. We did in Denmark once, but this was like in a real studio. It was a great experience. I had a really good time.
Yeah. And I thought it was also interesting the way you promoted it, because you released a teaser for the album by faking out fans as making it seems like a hacker had taken over the website. Then a message promised a big announcement from the hacker, but once it was revealed, a link took like a fans to like a preview of Siren Charms. I thought that was like a funny kind of like way to like help promote the album.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good idea.
Yeah. Whose idea was it to come up with that? I thought that was pretty clever.
I don't remember, unfortunately.
Yeah. Then of course you toured on that album, and then in 2015 you had sort of did your retirement from music to focus on your family life. So how hard was it to sort of leave In Flames?
It was tough. It was really tough. I decided like a year before I quit, but I told the guys that I will commit this touring cycle. I will play until we finish touring on Siren Charms, until they start to record the new album. So everyone knew about it, and which made it maybe harder, because the closer I got to the last show, the tougher it got. And I totally lost it on the last show, on the last song. It was really, really hard. It was a tough decision, but it had to be made. I felt like being almost 40, being away that much, just killing time in between shows when other people, they want to use their time, whilst I was killing time in between shows, and made me feel bad, you know.
Yeah.
So if I could teleport myself, I would still play probably in Flames, but it was too much time in between shows that has to be dealt with, that I wanted to spend somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was not the playing part, it was the touring.
Yeah. And
the
so
bedtime.
Yeah. And so during your sort of like break from the playing and stuff, you formed like the brewing place in Gothenburg with. So how did the idea come to be to sort of like make like a brewery?
I don't know. Since I joined In Flames pretty early, so I never had time to get like a proper education. So I had really nothing to go back to when I quit. Uh, since I was just an pre-rockstar dude with no education. So what else can I do? And since we toured the US a lot, I started appreciate the micro brewed beer pretty early. Was into that, and I thought, why not? I tried to start a brewery. How hard could it be? But it was pretty hard. But it's still up and running, and me and Peter and two other dudes running and owning it.
Yeah. Yeah, and sort of how does like Swedish beer compare to like American beer? Is there any like differences?
No, when it comes to microbreweries, we're we've been catching up now. And Gothenburg is like the beer capital of Scandinavia almost. We have lots of really good microbreweries, and we make some really good IPAs, for example.
Mm.
So now we're up there with the American breweries now, but it took a
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I would love to also find. Wish there was a way to like get like sort of like the beers that y'all make make to like import it here to the States, so I could try some.
yeah, that would be nice. But it's tough with the IPAs since they have to be you have to drink them fresh. When you start to export them overseas, they're already old when they get there. So
Yeah,
that's why we only
might have to make a
use the
trip to
IPAs now.
Gothenburg.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Yeah, but then of course eventually you started up got hooked up with the Halo effect. Was that sort of like the I guess like the itch to like get out of retirement and like yeah I want to start playing again?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I never stopped enjoy playing. But and then the pandemic came, and no one was touring, obviously. And Michael and Niklas was talking for fun about maybe starting a band. And then they were talking about who else should join. And Niklas came to the brewery one day and asked me and Peter if we want to join. And we said, yeah, of course. It would be a fun hobby, you know, when we're not our brewing. And then we talked about the last member. And I thought, yeah, why not Jesper? And the circle was complete.
Yeah,
And it was great to this. Nobody knew about the band. This was like a secret
yeah,
that never leaked out. So it was
yeah,
nice to write and record an album with no expectations from anyone, not even from ourselves, you know, because just did that once before, and that's when I recorded my first album. As,
yeah,
as, as soon as you released an album, people have expectations on you, and it's not the same anymore. So this was the second time ever that I could be involved in an album with no expectations from anyone, which was really nice. Just do whatever we wanted. We hardly knew ourselves how it should sound because we were a new band. How
yeah,
do we sound, you know?
yeah,
And we did 2 3 demos, and it's like, yeah, this is how it should sound.
yeah.
And then we
I
made an
believe one.
album, and we had it done for months and months before people even knew that we were a band. We were so like, come on, release it. We have some really good songs here.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course talking about Days of the Lost. I thought this was, in my opinion, one of the best albums from 2022. Dude, I remember like hearing like the first song, Shadow Minds, which was released back in like November of 2021, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. Like former members of In Flames making a band together, and I was like, damn, I think this is one of the best debut albums I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, it is a debut album, but at the same time, it's not a debut album. Since we have so many albums already released in different bands before. But for the Halo effect, it's a debut album, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I thought was cool because I subbed to your YouTube chat the band's YouTube channel. I love like the shopping TV kind of like video. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Like how the idea of that come to be. I think that was one of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
It was pretty weird. It was actually the recording company, Nuclear Blast, that came up with the idea about it. But it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not super serious about everything, you know.
the hello defect. I think that's hilarious. Yeah, I think it was. I know it's just for satire, but still, I think that's one of the funniest things ever. And I even see comments saying like there should be a hello defect shirt.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe we do one.
Yeah. Yeah, but then of course, like talking about this album, I think it's great. Like every song is almost different from one another, but it doesn't like change like the flow at all. Like starting with Shadow Minds, going into like Conditional, to Feel What I Believe, to ending with The Most Alone. Like every song almost has its like mood and different like vibes behind it, but it still keeps like the whole mood and all. It doesn't like change or anything. I think this album is just like a perfect 10 out of 10.
Nice, thank you. No, but it feels complete. It has diversity within the songs. Some really fast ones, mellow ones. Yeah, but as you say, it's like some kind of red line through all the songs, which
Yeah.
makes it sound complete in a way.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, but it feels good.
Yeah. And then of course I love the song Last of Our Kind. And I know there were some additional vocals from Matt Hafey from Trivium. So how did he end up doing some additional vocals on there? Because I know he's like a big fan of the Gothenburg metal scene. So how did he end up featuring on that song?
I don't remember. I mean, we wanted to have some kind of guest, and Matt's a great guy. We toured with him several times, and we asked him, and he thought it was a big honor. So, and it's a big honor for us having him on the album. So, and it fits well.
Yeah. And then talking about like the first show with the Halo Effect, I believe you did it in the festival in Sweden. So were you kind of like nervous being that was like your first like show back in quite a few years?
Not really. I mean, this is the thing. For me at least, I've been doing my like musical career. I'm done with it. So this is just a bonus. I don't have anything to prove for anyone, you know. So this is just for the fun of it, you know. Hang out with four great dudes drinking beer and just play music. So I feel no pressure at all, and that's why I don't feel nervous anymore. I never really did, but this is just for fun, hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no pressure.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, I've seen you guys now 3 times. The first time I saw you was you were playing the Prog Power Festival in Atlanta and
Oh, okay.
the last year. That
Mhm.
was my first time ever seeing you guys, and of course, meeting you guys well at the signing. I thought that was great. And I saw, and of course, I caught both of y'all sets earlier this year at the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise. So, what was that whole experience like on the cruise? Because compared to like playing on like a regular like festival on land, is it different than playing like on sea?
It's different. I wasn't on this one. I had to sit out.
Oh
There
fuck!
was
I almost
yeah.
forgot about that. That is
I
right.
already I did it with In Flames previously, and it's a pretty cool thing to do because you hang out with the fans throughout the whole cruise. You know, it's more like a big party instead of just sneak backstage and hide. Now you can just enjoy watching other bands, hang out with fans, talking music, drink beer. You know, it's a great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that was
awesome.
my experience on the cruise. It was like a big fucking party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then talking about some of like the B-sides from Days of the Lost, I love the Path of Fierce Resistance, which is like on like a Japanese bonus track. So so tell me about like that inspiration for that song.
Yeah, we made a lot of songs, and we decided that only the ones that are on the album should fit. So we had a few other ones, and usually you do like a Japan bonus song, and that works out. And then we had 2 more that was released later as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I also love
Become
the other 2
Surrender and
songs.
the Defiant one.
Yeah, another great songs.
Yeah, 2 really good songs. That we felt like maybe doesn't really fit with the other songs, even though they are great songs. So that's why we released them afterwards instead.
Yeah, which will be on as like some bonus tracks on the digipack version of the upcoming new album, March of the
Yeah.
Unheard, which we now transitioned into. So we got that new album coming out on January 10th. So what was the whole writing and recording process like for March of the Unheard?
We didn't have as much time. I mean, it's been done for a long time already. We recorded early, but we didn't have as much time as we did on the Days of the Lost. But now we kind of knew how we should sound already, since we already released 1 album. But this time also people know about the band. Then there are some expectations, which makes it a little bit different. And the second album is almost always kind of hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you do an album that people really appreciate. So of course there is some pressure about it, but I mean, we've been doing this for so long, so we've been pretty relaxed about it. We still write songs that we enjoy to play. But if you like the first album, this won't disappoint you.
Yeah, and
it's even more. It has a wider diversity in between the songs than before. But I would say it's even more complete as an album this time.
Yeah, do you ever worried about having like that kind of like sophomore more slump with some bands have with their second album?
No, not really. We're pretty confident that people will like this, and if they don't, I mean, as long as we are proud of what we do, we never release anything that we can't stand behind. And I mean, this is as good as it gets. So
Yeah.
if people don't like it, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've already loving like the 2 songs that you released, being Detonate and of course the title track. Now, musically, did you want to continue in the same vein as Days of the Lost, or did you want to try something new that the Halo Effect hasn't done before?
No, I wouldn't say it's so much different. No, not really.
Yeah.
But it's not like AC/DC, you know. It's not the same album all over again. It has to be something that is interesting, that kind of it's a bit different from the previous one, but it's not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to make a Halo Effect album sound too much like a Halo Effect album. You always got to try to like like experiment, but still makes what the band is.
Exactly, and you don't want to repeat yourself. Sometimes you want to challenge yourself a little bit when it comes to playing or writing, you know.
Yeah. And how hard is it to sort of like experiment, but try to keep what makes you all who you are?
It's not that hard, I guess. And we're not a weird band. We're not really proggy, you know. It's no not really any crazy stuff. But there are some songs that are a little bit more different, I would say, than from Days of the Lost.
Yeah.
In a good way, though, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about like your drumming, because I think you definitely have some sick drum parts. So when it comes to like playing drums, whether it be with Halo Effect or in Flames and stuff, do you usually need to hear what the guitars are doing in order to lay down a drum beat, or do you usually have like a whole like pattern like arranged and then the rest of the band can write according to that?
No, no, both in Flames and the Halo Effect is like guitar driven, melody driven bands, and I think the drums has to adapt to that. Um, don't overwhelm like the melodies. So I try not to play too much drums, you know. I would try to make it subtle, but don't make it too simple. I want to make like drum fills that are like musically fits the riff. I don't want to do a fill just for the sake of it, and yeah, look at me how fast I could play or whatever. how cool this is. I really think it has to glue together with the actual song, you know.
Yeah. And
So
talking
I
about,
don't try. And the older you get, the less important your own role become, you know.
yeah,
I'm just 1/5 of the band, and all the instruments has to fit in a good way.
yeah.
You cannot overwhelm or overshine anything, you know. It has to fit together.
And talking about like your drum setup, because I feel like you have a great drum sound. So I'm always curious about like your setup and in terms of like the drums you play, cymbals, sticks, and pedals and all that stuff.
It's pretty normal setup, I would say. There's nothing that sticks out. You know, I have two 22-inch kick drums, like a normal 14-inch snare. Then I have two toms, 12, 13, and two floor toms, 16 and 18. Uh, that's pretty normal, you know. Maybe that's boring, but that's how I'm used to play the drums. And now I'm too old to change and around, so you know,
Yeah.
I stay as I used to do before.
Yeah. Yeah. And sort of like in almost like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next for the Halo Effect? I know we got the new album coming out in January. It's just anything else with the Halo Effect that you also like to plug in terms of tours and stuff? And when can we expect Halo Effect to come in toward the States?
I don't know, but the next big thing is our first headlining tour in Europe. We've just been doing festivals and supporting Machine Head and the Monomarth before. So this is our first headline tour, which would be really cool to do all over Europe in January and February. And then we have some festivals planned for the summer. And then we don't know. I mean, it's tough because Michael has his band. They are touring like hell, and we have to try to fit our schedule into Dark Tranquillity schedule, you know.
Yeah. Make sure
So
the stars align.
exactly. And I mean, there's no rush. And as I said before, I'm never going to tour that much like I did before, and that's pretty impossible since Michael is already away 6 months a year with Dark Tranquillity. So
Yeah, he has like he's a busy man. He has now 4 bands, which is kind of nuts.
I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I gotta ask him, like, dude, do you ever sleep at all?
Yeah, during daytime probably. No, but he's busy, but it's
Yeah,
fun.
hell yeah.
So Cemetery Skyline was really good.
Yeah,
Awesome songs.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, when it comes to the US, I don't know. We will see what happens, but nothing planned. But
oh yeah.
we'll probably get there somehow.
Yeah, I'm lucky I got to see a play live once. Well, once
Yeah,
last year, and it was amazing. Fingers crossed for some more shows in the States.
of course. Yes.
Oh yeah. So thank you, Daniel, for this conversation. And it is so great to have you. I've now have 3 members. Just need to get Nicholas and Jesper, and I have everybody. So it's just and any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
No, not really. I'm just grateful that people still stick around listening to 5 old dudes just doing what they enjoy most, like play music and drink beer. And yeah, really humble and grateful that people are so supportive and like what we do.
Hell yeah. So everybody, Daniel Svensson from the Halo Effect, and we'll see you next time.